Hi YouTube, it's Simone75, and I am doing the first of what is going to be many vlog web series videos about my life. I ever since I can remember, I mean probably starting in junior high, I've been told by people everywhere that I need to write my life story. You gotta write your life story, they always say, and you've had such an interesting life. And it's funny to me that I would be told that at such a young age, because I have gone through far more than I had ever gone through at that point when I was being told I should write my life story. Which is maybe why I never did it at that point, because what was a 14 or 15-year-old really going to write about that was going to have any kind of impact on somebody? And now the trouble is that I can never really get past a certain point when I try to write it, because I have tried to write it ever since I was a teenager. And I just get to a certain point in my story and I just cannot make myself write anymore. It's not writer's block, or maybe it is. I don't know. But that's what I'm doing. And if anybody who watches these videos is an aspiring writer or can write a novel, you know, or wants to write a biography, but they don't know anybody that hasn't already had a biography written on them and wants to write a story like mine, feel free to leave your information in the comments, and I will get with you and we'll see if we can't make it happen. Not looking for that to happen, but just, you know, putting it out there that if somebody wants to help me actually publish a book, then I'm all for doing that. So I expect some harsh criticism and judgments to come from this because of the themes that I'm going to reveal. Things that when people who know me but don't know me, they really don't have an idea of what I have gone through and the decisions that I've made that have impacted my life in ways that nobody should ever, you know, have to deal with these things. I've got two of my dogs in the room and they're like wanting to get under the blankets and stuff, so I'm trying to help them, so sorry about that. And there is some background noise. I got a fan going. I get hot really easily, so I constantly have a fan on me, so there is some background noise, and I do apologize for that. But I'm using my phone to record this, and anybody that knows, phones are kind of lame, a lame way to record videos for YouTube, but it's what I got. So I don't care if somebody wants to judge me based on things that I've done, because I mean, until you've lived a life like mine, you have no idea what it's like to be in my shoes. And feel free to judge. You leave nasty comments, I'm just going to delete them. So before you waste your time and mine and the computer space, just, you know, say what you got to say to other people. Give me a thumbs down, whatever. I don't really care. I think I'll start with my sister many years ago had watched the movie Forrest Gump, and after watching it told me that she equated my life to the character Jenny. And after watching, I mean, I would have to agree with her. There were a lot of similarities between me and Jenny Gump. And it's just sad, but then, you know, some years later, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, she had seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and had said then that that character reminded her of me. I have this hard part to me, but I also have this very soft side. And if you haven't seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I'm not trying to do movie reviews here, but if you haven't seen Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it's a good movie. It was well done. The character was well played. And I do have to agree, aside from the haircut and everything, I do have to agree. I am similar to a combination of Jenny Gump and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I don't remember this girl's name to save my life. I just remember the movie. So there is something about me that is very hard. But for those that get to know me on a personal level, get to know the soft side to me. And she did have that. So I can see why my sister would say that. But that's just a basic, short introduction to what I'm doing here. And I'm going to get started. Okay. If you can see that, that is me as a baby. I was born Misty Dawn Butler on July 5th, 1975 in Spokane, Washington. My parents were James Butler. Don't know how well you can see that, but that's one of the only existing pictures I actually have of my father. I'm not sure if I was even born yet at this time, what this day was, where this took place. I just know this is a picture that I got after my mom died, of my dad. And then my mother, I'm going to have to pick my phone up here and show this to you. My mother is right here. This is my mom. And this is my sister Cherie. This is my brother Billy. This is Jamie. This is Rhett. And this is me. I was the third child of my parents, Jim and Frances Butler. This is me here in the middle. This is Jamie. And this is Rhett. They're the three kids that my parents had together. And then the other two, Billy and Cherie, that I showed you before, that those two kids were products of my mother's first marriage. That's another picture of my dad that I have. Kind of shows a resemblance more of my brother Jamie and him than it does me, but it's like one of the only very few pictures I have of him. And that's what I remember him looking like the one time that I got to see him when I was 13. He lived in Birmingham, Alabama. And I got to be with him for about 3 weeks. And when I left, for whatever reason, he decided not to keep contact with me. And so I no longer have my dad part of my life. I don't know why he didn't keep contact with me, but he didn't. And from what I gathered, I had an assignment in an English class or a communications class a couple of years ago. And I found out, if this was the correct information, I mean, his sister certainly had the right name. Where he was from had the right name. He passed away in 2011. And I haven't seen him since like 1988. So it didn't really affect me when I found out he died. But I mean, I do kind of wish I had gotten to know him better. But it just wasn't meant to be. So anyway. So yeah, my parents had 3 kids together. My mom had 2 from a previous marriage. And I was the baby. I'm the baby of the family. And I keep looking over to the side here because I have some things written down that I wanted to make sure I got in this. So if I keep looking, sorry if it annoys you, but I have to kind of keep focus, or I'll lose focus and just get totally off topic and talk about anything else. Because this is not the most pleasant thing I've ever had to talk about. I guess, I guess I could start with, I was born with some form of epilepsy. Up until I was 4 years old, I had grand mal seizures. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure anybody ever really explained it or can explain it, but they stopped when I was 4. But in that time, I had grand mal seizures. I was put on phenobarbital, which increased my seizures, so they had to take me off of it. There were a few times that I've been told about. I'm sure there were more incidences of this, but I've only been told about a few times where I had actually stopped breathing. Like, my mother came to check on me one night and I wasn't breathing, and then one day, and I think this was before it was decided that somebody who knew CPR had to stay home with me at all times. But I was home alone with my brothers, and I was on a swing set we had out back, and my brother, I'm not sure which one it was. It was either Billy or Jamie. It was probably Billy. Because I would have been real young. I mean, I don't remember it. But I apparently had stopped breathing and fell off the swing. And by the time my brother had gotten out to me, my lips were blue. So, luckily, a lady that had become a babysitter of mine many years later, her husband was a fireman. And he was home at that time, thankfully. I'm not sure my brothers would have known what to do had he not been home. But he was home and he ran down. They were like, I want to say 3 or 4 houses away from us. I want to say it was like 3 houses in the same, block as us. So he ran down and was able to revive me, obviously. Or I wouldn't be here to tell you this story. And I would like to tell you more about my life as a child growing up, but I really don't recall a lot. I have very vague memories. Memories of my dad putting a sunsuit on me. Memories of my dad feeding me in a high chair, feeding me toast. I think I wasn't like really willing to eat much else, and he was trying to get me to eat toast. I don't really know what that was about. But what I do remember is a lot of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse going on in my house with me. The emotional abuse, I mean, some of it still continues today. I mean, as far back as I can remember, if I cried or I was upset, my family constantly told me, shut up, we don't want to hear what you have to say. Nobody wants to hear it. Shut up. Not really having any comfort when it came to things like that. I mean, I know I have memories of my mom like dropping me off at a babysitter's. I had this one lady that I was babysat by named Mrs. Patterson, who lived a couple neighborhoods over from where we lived. And I remember, I think the first time my mom dropped me off, as little kids do, they just cry when their parents go to leave. And I think I remember something about that. But I mean, she was a nice lady, and I eventually went to elementary school with one of her grandson, Wayne, I think his name was. So after I got to know her, it was okay. But I mean, that's just normal, typical stuff. And my mom did at that time, hug me and make sure I was okay before she left. And my mom was the PTA mother who everybody thought was this wonderful human being and thought she was just the greatest thing. She would show up for PTA meetings. She sent, little food items when we would have like end of the year parties, or the parties that you have in elementary school, the little classroom parties. My mom would always send something, whether it was cupcakes or brownies or cookies, or she had this watermelon thing she would make, and she would send that. She would bring it. Everybody just thought the world of her. But they didn't know her. They didn't know what was going on with me behind closed doors. I really think that my mother had seen the movie Mommy Dearest, because to this day, I don't like wire hangers. And if you've ever seen Mommy Dearest, then you can kind of figure out why. My mother liked to beat the holy hell out of me with those things, and I don't really remember what would set her off. I don't know if it was something I'd actually done. I don't remember if she was pissed off at my brothers and my sister. I mean, there were certainly times that I do recall that she wasn't mad at me. She was mad at my brother and took it out on me physically. I don't know if it's because I was weaker than her. I don't know why she chose me. But she didn't abuse the rest of my brothers and my sister the way she did me. She may have hit them a time or two. I've even had a brother say to me, well, Mom hit me worse than any of all. She hit me twice with a belt. And I'm thinking, really? Oh, I'm so sad for you. She hit you twice with a belt. I wish that's what she had done to me. I wish that's all she had done to me. But there were times I couldn't go to school. There were times that the welts and the bruises were so bad, my sister had to stay home for days because I couldn't go to school like that, or questions would be raised. And she didn't want that. I don't know what happened to my mom to make her like that. I've heard things. I've been told things. I have, but I mean, nobody actually knows really what happened to my mother. All we know is she wasn't a nice person. And from an outsider's point of view, my guess would be that if you actually saw what she did to me, she hated me. I don't know if I reminded her of my dad. I don't know if it was because I was sick. I don't know if it was because my mom had 5 kids, no husband, and 2 or 3 jobs at a time, and she was tired. It certainly doesn't excuse her behavior. It definitely doesn't excuse it, but it gives reason to it. And up until she died, I have struggled with why me? Why, what did I do? What did I do to deserve that? And I'll never know. She died with it. And she's not going to tell me now. Nobody's going to tell me. My family doesn't tell me things. I don't know if they find joy in just keeping things from me. I don't, whatever. I just know that I don't know things. So it's always going to remain a mystery until the day I die as to what happened to my mother to cause her to act like that. But it went on until I was 13. The physical abuse just went on and on and on. And I mean, it got to the point where she threw a lit kerosene heater at me one time. I'll talk about that later, at a later point. She choked me. Oh my God. I used to have like the worst thing about having long hair. I didn't like it because my mom liked to drag me around by it. So it took me a long time to be able to be okay with having long hair. And, I to say that my life was just solely bad isn't 100% correct, because I also remember good times. Christmases and birthdays were always really good. She always made sure that we had more than we asked for. She always made sure that we had, lots of birthday presents, and we would have parties, and, she always made, the cake, and she was a good homemaker as far as that went. I mean, she kept the house clean, at that time anyway. She became a hoarder later in life, but at that time, I don't remember our house being trashy and junky or anything like that. I remember it always being clean. So, it wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good either. Some of it was just downright horrible. But life is what it is. There's only so much you can do about things, and sometimes you can't do anything about some things, and you got to learn to let it go. And unfortunately, when you come from the life that I have, letting go of things isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. But I have let go of some things. I was born in Spokane, Washington, and from it, if I was told the right thing, I believe when I was 8 months old, we left Washington and ended up in Ruskin, Florida. So as far as I'm concerned, because I spent more time in North Carolina than anywhere, I generally will tell people I'm from North Carolina. I guess by birth I'm from Washington State. But from what I can remember, I'm from a little town 15 miles south of Tampa called Ruskin. It's a tomato production town. It's the tomato capital of the world. I have worked at restaurants all the way out here that get their tomatoes from Ruskin, Florida. So not really anything map worthy. You know, tomatoes put it on the map, I guess. But you know, that's really not important as far as like where I'm from. Anyway, at some point, and I don't know when this started. I don't know who did it. I do have a few short memories of two of my brothers. I will be told by certain family members that can't be correct, that it's got to be false. It's got to be a false memory. But I was sexually abused. I was at least this age. It was going on. I don't know if you can really see that picture too much, but that's me. I couldn't have been... It's funny because I remember this sunsuit. But I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 there. Maybe 6. But that's how little I was. I was real little. Little enough to not like what was happening. There is some talk that it was my father, because I don't remember him being there, but I've been told that he was. I don't remember it because I was too little, and being that my memories are so kind of sketchy from when I was little, it would explain a few things as far as my dad being there, because I remember talking to him on the phone at a very young age, and him feeding me toast and putting sunsuits on me at this one particular house we lived in, and it would explain that as to why I had those memories. But as far as like actual memories of them, I just don't have them. So not real sure exactly how long he was around, but he did molest another family member, and they strongly believe that he molested me. But I also have memories, as I said before, of 2 of my brothers, and you know, of course, most people in my family are going to deny that and say, oh no, they would never do that. Well, I don't know how you explain why I have clear memories of them, and I can tell you exactly what happened and what room of the house it happened in. And the one main person who says that this couldn't possibly have happened with them, especially my oldest brother, is because he was never there. But I mean, there were times she wasn't there, so she wouldn't know if he was there or not. And it kind of irritates me that my family does that. It's like I'm lying about it. You know, I'm not making it up. I'm not lying about it. It happened. I have never verbalized what actually happened to me. That's probably a very difficult thing for me to do, and I know one day I'm going to have to. But I'm not going to do that in this book. This vlog, web series, whatever you want to call it, I'm not going to do that. It's not something I want to put in there. It's a very traumatic thing for me, and I don't really want to talk about it with a computer. So that's about all I can say about that. I don't remember when it started. I don't remember when it stopped. I had blocked it out up until I was about 14 and started remembering things. And so, I mean, I can tell you that somebody tried to have sex with me. I remember bleeding and crying because of pain. Not so much that I was scared of the person, but I was in pain. I remember that. Don't remember much else. I try not to. So that happened, which definitely had an effect on me. The abuse that I went through with my mom had more of an effect on me than anything else. I remember nights her coming into my room in the middle of the night and beating me for hours or maybe it wasn't hours, but it seemed, it seemed like hours. I mean, everything seems like hours to a little kid. Not because my room wasn't clean. And unless a parent cleans the room, I don't really know any child that has a clean room. To be honest with you, I mean, kids just don't clean. Some do, but I was one of those typical kids that didn't. So, my mom would beat me for things. And, sure, I needed discipline, but what she did was not discipline. When it's getting to the point where you can't go to school because you've got so many bruises and it would raise too many questions, there's a problem. I remember her confining me to my room and me being so afraid that I wouldn't even go out to go to the bathroom. I peed and pooped in my closet. I had clothing on the floor of the closet, and I'd make a pile, and that's where I would pee and poop because I was just that afraid of what would happen if I left that room. And I mean, I was little. I'm talking 5, 6 years old. And, to terrify a 5 or 6 year old that much, how bad do you think it was? It had to be pretty bad. My grandmother disciplined me. She would, spank us with switches, but I don't think she abused me. I mean, she disciplined me. There's a difference between discipline and abuse. And what I went through was not discipline with my mother. It was abuse. The things that were said to me, that helped. That didn't make it any easier. I'm going to have to stop here. Recording's about to run out of time. I will pick up in